Dear MOOC learners, welcome back to this module on virtual education. In this session, we will see what is continuous assessment, why it is important, and how we can do continuous assessment in virtual learning environment. So, here we see what are the different types of continuous assessments, what are its features, techniques, advantages of continuous assessment, how do you plan and organize it, what are the problems in implementing in educational institution, and a computer aided continuous assessment system, how you can bring it in place. So, at the end of this session, you should be able to explain the need and concept of continuous assessment, enlist the features of continuous assessment, and list out some of the challenges and problems of implementing it in higher educational institution. So, what is the concept here? The continuous assessment is the system in which the quality of a student's work is being judged by the various pieces of works during the course and not only by one final exam. This is the foundation concept or the philosophy on which we have to understand continuous assessment. As the name indicates, it should be continuous in nature. Okay. So, what is the purpose? The assessments are designed in varieties of ways for different purposes. There are two things. One is standardized assessments that are designed and scored in a standard manner, like you have a multiple choice questions format, they are called MCQs. The other one is standards referenced or standards based assessments, which are designed to measure how well the students have mastered the specific knowledge and skills described in the state or national learning standards. Unfortunately, we do not have such kind of national learning standard, but we follow the one which is being practiced in the rest of the places. So, now the continuous assessment is a form of educational examination that evaluates a student's progress throughout a prescribed course. So, it is often used as an alternative to the final examination system, which was conducted long back. Okay. Earlier, we used to have only one final examination. Nowadays, it is not encouraged in an educational practice. It also contains the proponents. What are the proponents of continuous assessment? And the proponents argue that the approach allows tracking the progress and has the chance of offering students more support, guidance, and opportunities to improve during the course or the program. So, an example, the learners are given mini presentations on their favorite films as a follow up activity after reading about the history of a cinema. The teacher evaluates their presentations and uses the result as a part of their final result. Hope we are understanding the context of continuous assessment. So, here the assessments are used for wide varieties of purpose in schools and educational institutions. There are typically three types of assessments. One is a formative assessment, another one is called a summative assessment. So, in between there is one more called as initial assessment. So, now the continuous assessment involves initial assessment, formative assessment and also summative assessment. It is the combination of all the three. So, now what is a formative assessment? Formative assessments are in process evaluation of students learning that are typically administered multiple times during a unit or a course or an academic program. Similarly, summative assessments are used to evaluate the student learning at the conclusion of a specific instructional period, typically the end of the unit or end of the course or semester or a program or an year. So, what is a continuous assessment? As the name suggests, continuous means frequent analysis of learning performance, right. So, continuous assessment is a form of educational examination that evaluates students' progress throughout a prescribed course. It allows tracking of progress and offers students more guidance and opportunities to improve during the course or a program. And this method is also called as curriculum integrated assessment or embedded assessment. What are the 6 steps to continuous improvement of students' learning? Identify the goals, identify the objectives, then you specify the approaches, specify what measures, then share the results and make changes. Please see, assessment is for improving the learning, not just for judging the students. Okay. So, what is this CCE? We call it continuous comprehensive evaluation. Continuous means regular and continuous activities conducted throughout the year to achieve all-round development. It is comprehensive mental, emotional and physical aspects of the student's progress, that is all-round development of the student is considered, and variety of tools and techniques are used to assess and evaluate the student's progress. Okay, it is not just paper based examinations. So, now what are the different type of continuous assessments and how to suggest and what is the media that can be used? In written assessments, when you are taking the written papers, you can give either problem solving based questions, long or short answer questions or multiple choice questions. So, in case of problem solving questions, the theoretical exercises, tutorials, weekly assignments, including feedback from the teaching assistant or the peers can be considered. And problem solving as an assignment, here what we do is in problem solving as an assignment or tests in the Blackboard or LMS. Blackboard here is used in the context of learning management system. Okay, Blackboard is also, I think majority may be knowing, Blackboard is also used as a substitute for Moodle or LMS. Okay. Now, what we do in long or short answer type? Written assessments. So, here I request you please see, the Blackboard can be even replaced by Moodle. Okay. The written, in long or short answers, the written assignments, preferably several small assignments are compared to one the large, and teachers or the peer feedback using the assessment criteria, and feedback can focus on the selected parts here. Okay. Here the assignments either in Moodle or Blackboard or an LMS with or without assessment criteria or interfaces. Here discuss even the discussion forum in the Moodle or the Blackboard or the LMS with or without the assessment criteria can be used. You can use wiki pages, a vocabulary can be developed by the students in either Blackboard or Moodle or LMS. Tests with short answer questions can also be developed using the LMS like Moodle or the Blackboard. Then multiple choice questions, teacher generated questions with or without feedback can be used, or you can also have a student generated questions. Here you have the option in Moodle or Blackboard to set the multiple choice questions, and you can also share it with your students. Okay. Now, what are the things that we do in oral examination? Usually it will be without any preparation. The students draw some random questions and give some immediate response to the question. That will happen in class. Okay. The others are with preparation. You can, with aids, the students presentations or dissertations or defense based on previous work can be given as a part of oral presentation. That happens in our seminar, project viva and many other things. Here the students will give the presentation in the class with the feedback from instructor or from the peers. The students who are presenting can be actively involved. Even the students who are not presenting can also be actively involved. They can ask the questions with the presenter, and they can involve themselves in the oral presentation. So, this also happens in the class, or it can happen even in online mode. And as I told you, there are a lot of tools like this Nearpod, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams or WebEx. There are these kind of tools can be used for online presentations also. And one more assessment that is used is the practical assessment, where the practice during the laboratory sessions, field work or at home internships or placements can be used, and feedback exercises are taken. Here you can get this through some assignments or blog or journal in the LMS like Blackboard or Moodle. In the programming, possibility for online exercises like hackathons or online programming contests can also be conducted. So, these are the types of continuous assessments that can be conducted. Now, what are the techniques of continuous assessment? The continuous assessment can become a very powerful way of introducing the feedback to the students' work, especially if the students are given a chance to act on the feedback, so that assessment becomes incremental. For example, students hand in draft. Students receive the feedback on the draft from peers and teaching assistants, or the students resubmit the improved draft after taking the feedback into account, and the student drafts are assessed. Please see, the assessment is a part of learning cycle here, okay, or the learning ecosystem here. So, through the continuous assessment, students will progressively improve. That is the criteria. Now, to gather information about the progress of learners, it can be done by varieties of techniques, both assisted with some learning process and the learning outcomes. So, now what are the guidelines of planning and organizing a continuous? There should be a guideline, right? The effective assessment planning enhances student learning and engages students with different types of learning styles. Here, the assessment influences with a student interprets to be important learning goal for the course. What I want to say is, the assessment influences what the student interprets to be the important learning goals for the course. So, in the best case scenario, the assessment should be aligned with course goals and the objectives. And the performance guidelines will always be beneficial to design the assessments that promotes students' learning, right? Now, you should also give sufficient time to prepare. Teacher should be given sufficient time to prepare the assessment. There should be written guidelines and instructions, instantly recognizable and clear. You should not have a vague guidelines or instructions. You should create opportunities to discuss with students and staffs before and after the implementation, and ensure the assessment techniques are progressive and properly integrated. Okay? Unless there is a commitment, diligence and sacrifice on the art of the teacher, continuous assessment will never be successful. So, therefore, teacher's role in creating a proper assessment is highly crucial. So, what are the problems of implementation of this continuous assessment in educational institution? One is the lack of appropriate skills of the teachers, test construction and administration, and their attributes towards the continuous assessment system. And also the resistance of the teachers to change and the time constraints. The lack of keen observation to assess the effective outcomes, and lack of knowledge about basic arithmetical operations of addition and multiplication while scoring, like how to calculate the mean of the students' progress. So, you should know some kind of minimum statistics to perform an effective scoring. Okay. So, what are the techniques that we use in continuous assessments? The question and answers in the lesson, short tests or quizzes, homework exercises and assignments, class tests, group exercises, projects, and exercises with short, extended or multiple choice answers. Okay. So, in an asynchronous assessment, which is the major characteristic of a continuous assessment, there should be a flexibility for students, there should be an evaluation of critical thinking, and the question paper with proper difficulty should be set. And what are the chances, the negative, how students can cheat? There is a chances of plagiarism, one should take care. There are a lot of IT issues, they can actually play with the IT, then there is a chance of copying. So, we have to see both the sides of the assessment. Okay. So, first see how to do this formative and summative assessment. The purpose of formative assessment is to monitor student learning and provide ongoing feedback to the staff and the students. So, here please see, there is a formative assessment and there is a summative assessment. There are certain things like you have to say the state of assessments, then distinct benchmarks, end of the unit or the term assessments, and the standard based assessments. Similarly, in formative assessment there will be quizzes, objective type questions, homeworks or classworks, then many other activities that can be created as a part of formative assessment. Summative assessments evaluate the student learning at the end of an instructional unit by comparing it against some standard or the benchmark. Okay. So, now what is the assessment cycle? The assessment cycle includes, first you have to develop the program mission and the outcome in the first phase, then design an assessment plan, then you should have an implementation plan and you should gather information, then interpret and evaluate the information, and finally you should modify and improve. So, in the first phase, while you develop the program mission and outcome, you should ensure that your assessment plan should be in par with the program mission and the outcomes, and your assessment plan should be implementable. Okay. And you should have a proper assessment plan so that you should not go back and revert your assessment plan. Similarly, you should have to frequently interpret and evaluate the information that you gather from the assessment, and finally you keep modifying your assessment plan and improve your assessment depending upon the feedback that you get. So, this is the e-assessment process that happens. So, what is the assessment trends in education? As you know, formative assessment is ongoing, differentiated and frequent. Standard based grading, we have transparency, growth and competency based. Actionable data, we get actionable data with recent data, visual data, feedback loops and many things. And fewer final, you should not have too many final exams. In the final exam should be innovative with reduced stress and clear insights. These are the trends in assessment. So, as I told you, there are two kinds, asynchronous and synchronous. In asynchronous, you are creating an online presence and a cooperative learning community, and in asynchronous, you have content delivery. In between, you have active learning task, which has lot of scope for implementing continuous assessment. So, now the assessments, as I told you, has an assessment methodology, like whether you have a disc based assessment or Myers-Briggs type of assessment. People have confusion what type of methodology to be used in what scenario, but you have to choose the right methodology for the right situation. And when it comes to an assessment tool, you can either go for a software based or a tool or ICT based tool, or you can have an assessment for using pen and paper. So, the assessment can serve different purpose. The assessment is used to assign grades and certify the mastery level. It is used to determine the progress. It is used to identify the strength and weakness of the students. It is used to motivate the students to study. It is used for creating a learning activity. It is used to give feedback to the students, to give feedback for the teachers also. And it can be used for judgment and also learning. But please ensure that you use assessment to foster learning, learn about the learning and improve learning, and not only for judgment. Now, how the assessment assesses the extent to which the program objectives are achieved, you should ensure that your assessment is having general and subject objectives, process and product objectives, and knowledge and skill objectives. All three are met. Your assessment should meet the general and subject objectives, process and product objectives, and knowledge and skill objectives. At all three levels, your assessment should be met. So, you have to match the assessment task to the objectives and make the criteria explicit and clear to the students. Then only you can have a successful assessment. There are different methods that are appropriate for different assessment purpose and for different program objectives. As I told you, there is a quiz, examination, essay, multiple choice, reports, dissertation and thesis, projects, composition and so on. And even for judging performance, even the performance, maybe a dance performance or a solo performance like that, journal, portfolio, self assessment, peer assessment, group assessment, concept maps and heuristics, they are all used for different objectives. So, you have to use the mix of the methods. Okay. These are some examples of assessment types. You can have a small written assignments, you can have student presentation and seminars, practical skill test, portfolio, active participation, multiple choice questions and similar. All these things can be the part of our e-assessment criteria also. And the guidelines for planning and organizing the continuous assessment, students should not be overstressed, sufficient time should be given to prepare. You should have a written guidelines and instructions, instantly recognizable and clear. You have to create opportunity to discuss with students and staff before and after implementation. You have to ensure assessment technique is progressive and properly integrated. The continuous assessment should engage students in reaching their full potential. You have to improve the quality of instruction. If well planned and implemented, definitely the technique will go a long way. Unless there is a commitment, diligence on the part of the teacher, the continuous assessment will not be successful. So, what are the problems of implementing it in educational institution? We have already seen there is a lack of appropriate skill, resistance of change, lack of keen observation to assess the effective student outcomes, and lack of knowledge about the scoring. So, let us see the challenges. aligning the objectives, learning and assessment, engaging the students, providing frequent and useful feedback, managing the assessment workload, and using assessment results to evaluate and improve teaching and program effectiveness. These are all some of the challenges that we have. And also we have some social and ethical issues like the manipulation of formation information raises a major social and ethical issues, as everyone know. Again, we have an administrative issues. The administration should be careful about maintaining the records of student information. Then change in the examination pattern. There are students who cannot perform well in their exam when the examination pattern changes. So, at the time of assessment, students find it difficult to adjust with the new pattern and they are confused to attempt the new form of questions. And there are a lot of teacher assessment issues. Teachers are finalizing the syllabus in the short time as they are loaded with some administrative works in schools and colleges. So, therefore, you can also go for some kind of computer aided assignments, which includes all forms of assessments which involve student progress, whether it is summative or formative. And this will cover both the assignments delivered through computer, either in online or on a local network, and those that are marked with the aid of computer, such as those using OMR. As you know, many of the examinations like GATE examination, NET examination and all other examinations conducted by National Testing Agency, now they are all computer aided assignments. And the assignments can be either written on a computer or researched online, are also computer aided assignments. So, any assignments that are written on a computer or researched online are computer aided assessments. And one of the most common forms of computer aided assignments are online quizzes or examinations or online MCQs. Okay. So, to conclude, there is nothing like is likely to drive the student learning more than the method of assessment. So, at the same time, assessment methods are rapidly changing and likely to continue to change. So, therefore, assessment in terms of skill development needs to be both ongoing and continuous as well as summative. There is an increasing range of digitally based tools that can enrich the quality and the range of student assessments, and therefore, the choice of assessment methods and their relevance to other components are vital elements of any effective learning environment. So, keeping these things, we have to put more efforts in making our assessments more attractive, and it should encourage the learning at the classroom. Thank you very much.